Imagine this. Someone stole your money. That's right, they stole from you, walked right up and took it. Now, how much did they take? 1 penny. Now ask yourself, how much of your remaining money would you spend chasing them down? How many hours? How much stress? How much peace would you burn just to make them pay? You'd laugh, right? It's just a penny. You'd brush it off, maybe turn it into a funny story. Because no sane person throws away a fortune over something so small. And yet, every day, we do exactly that. Not with money, but with something far more valuable, our energy and our time. Someone makes a rude comment, cuts you off in traffic, shows you disrespect, and we spend the rest of the day angry, offended, telling and retelling the story to anyone who will listen and feel sorry for you. We trade a full day of peace for a moment of pain, but the Stoics knew better. They knew that your response is the one thing that can't be stolen unless you give it away. So today, we're going to stop giving it away. This is the Stoic art of staying unbothered, and it begins the moment you stop chasing penny thieves and start protecting your peace. Let's begin. Number 1, reclaim the gap. Have you ever noticed how easily a stranger can hijack your whole day? You're in a good mood, maybe not perfect, but steady. You're handling things, you've got your rhythm. Then someone makes a careless comment, gives you a look, rolls their eyes, questions your decision, your values, your worth. And just like that, you're gone, pulled out of your own mind and into theirs. But here's what the famous Stoic Epictetus knew better than anyone. It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. In other words, the event isn't the enemy. Your interpretation of it is. Imagine this. You're sitting in a cafe. A peaceful morning, sunlight cutting through the window, steam curling up from your cup. Someone bumps your table. Your drink spills. They mutter something under their breath and keep walking. Now pause. This is where most people get it wrong. They think the bump ruined their day. But the bump is already over. It happened. It's gone. What lingers is a choice. See, there's a space inside you. A space between what happens and how you respond. And inside that space is the only power you truly have. The power to pause, to reflect, to rise above instead of sinking below. This is the Stoics' first and greatest tool, the pause before the reaction. But in the real world, that pause is hard to find. We live fast. Our minds run on autopilot. React, justify, complain, repeat. We're not trained to respond. We're trained to defend ourselves, to snap back, to teach them a lesson, to control what can't be controlled. But let me ask you this. When has anger ever made you wiser? When has overreacting ever left you proud? When has spinning the same thought all day ever brought peace? This is why the Stoics trained every day, not for battle with others, but for the far harder battle with themselves. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. When something rattled him, a betrayal, a political attack, even the death of a loved one, he returned to that phrase like a compass. I control my mind. Nothing else. Imagine your attention as currency, every reaction, a payment. When you argue with a fool, scroll through endless drama, replay a conversation for the 10th time, you're spending your attention. You're giving it away to someone who likely isn't even thinking about you anymore. So the question becomes, is it worth it? There's a metaphor Epictetus used that still hits hard today. He said, when someone offends you, know that it is your opinion that something bad has happened. You can remove that opinion and be at peace. In modern terms, It's like having a mute button for chaos. Someone insults you? Mute. Someone challenges your choices? Mute. Someone tries to bait you into an argument that goes nowhere? Mute. Not because you're avoiding life, but because you're choosing to live it on your terms. Let's be clear, this isn't about being passive. It's not about bottling things up or pretending you're okay when you're not. This is about mastering the part of you that wants to react instantly and replacing it with the part of you that wants to respond intentionally. One is primal, the other is practiced. So how do you start? Start small. When your phone pings, pause before checking it. When your partner says something sharp, pause before answering. When traffic backs up, pause before shouting. Each pause is a rep. Each rep is training. And each moment you choose stillness over spiraling, you win. You don't need to be a Roman emperor to practice this. You just need to want peace more than you want to be right. You need to want control over yourself more than control over the world. So the next time someone bumps your table or your mood, remember, the event didn't ruin your day. Your reaction did. And if you created the reaction, you can uncreate it too. Because nothing is more powerful than a person who can stay calm when they have every reason not to. That's where Stoicism begins. That's where you begin. Number 2, drop the script. Now, does this sound familiar? You hold the door open for someone, and they walk right through it without saying thanks. You go out of your way to support a friend, and when you need them, they're nowhere to be found. You give advice, show patience, offer kindness, and still, people disappoint you. It's easy to think, how could they be like this? I would never treat someone like that. But the Stoics would offer you a sharp truth. When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger. Marcus Aurelius. Most frustration doesn't come from what people do. It comes from the silent script we write about how they should behave. We expect people to be thoughtful, to be fair, to be loyal, to say thank you, to see the world like we do. And when they don't, we suffer. Not because of their behavior, but because of our expectation. Imagine if you planted an apple tree and got angry every year that it didn't grow oranges. You'd look ridiculous. Everyone would think you'd lost your mind. But this is what we do with people every day. We hope someone will change, see the light, apologize, treat us the way we treat them, and every time they don't, we plant another seed of resentment. This doesn't mean you give up on people. It means you stop trying to edit their nature. Because here's the thing, they are not you. They didn't grow up with your values. They don't see the world through your lens. They don't hear the same volume when you speak. They are living their story with their own wounds, biases, fears, and blind spots, just like you. So what do? You drop the script. You stop needing people to play the roles you wrote for them. You stop expecting the rude driver to become polite, the forgetful friend to suddenly remember, the selfish co-worker to start caring. You accept them as they are, and then you choose how close you let them stand. That's not cold, that's clear. Epictetus said it best, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. And often, our strongest opinions are the ones that begin with, I would never, but just because you would never doesn't mean they won't. And expecting them to act by your rules is like trying to control the wind. Here's where Stoicism shines. It doesn't tell you to be passive. It tells you to focus on what you can control. And what can you control? Your boundaries, your expectations, your interpretation of what happened. Let's be clear. This doesn't mean you excuse toxic behavior. It means you stop being shocked by it. You stop giving it the power to destabilize you. You say, "Ah, that's their nature," and you respond with calm. There's a quiet kind of strength in that, the kind of strength that says, "I see what you're doing, but I don't need to match it. I don't need to fix it, and I sure as hell don't need to let it ruin my day." So how do you start living this? Try this. Name your expectations. What are you hoping this person will do? Be honest. Ask, is this realistic? Does their history suggest otherwise? Refocus. Shift your energy toward managing your response, not their behavior. Every time someone surprises you in a bad way, ask yourself, did they actually change? Or did they just finally show me the truth? This is how Stoics move through the world. Eyes open, expectations low, boundaries firm. And when disappointment knocks, they answer the door with grace. Because when you stop needing people to be you, you finally free yourself to be at peace. Number 3, let go of being right. Take a second to think back to your last argument. Maybe it started as something small, a missed detail, a different opinion, a clumsy phrase, but somewhere along the way, it stopped being about the issue and started being about proving yourself right. Your pulse quickened, your voice sharpened, your focus narrowed into a single mission. I need them to admit I'm right. But here's the real question. Even if you win, do you actually feel better? The Stoics would say no, because they weren't fighting for victory. They were training for inner stillness. Would you rather be right or be calm? Lao Tzu. And the Stoics chose calm. Being right doesn't change your life. Being in control of your emotions does. Let's be honest, that urge to argue, it rarely comes from clarity. It comes from ego, from insecurity, from the part of you that feels like being wrong is the same as being small, or being unseen, or being disrespected. But being wrong doesn't mean you're worthless, and being right doesn't mean you're wise. Imagine this. You're at dinner with someone who insists the capital of Australia is Sydney. You know it's not. You know it's Canberra. You're absolutely certain. But they keep arguing, digging in, getting louder, dragging the energy of the entire night into a downward spiral. Now ask yourself, is correcting them worth ruining the meal? Is the truth about geography more valuable than your peace? Because sometimes the cost of being right is far too high. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change. For I seek the truth, by which no one was ever truly harmed." See what he's saying? The point of a disagreement isn't to win, it's to understand. And if truth reveals you were wrong, that's not an insult. That's a gift. But if your only goal is to win, then even being right can make you miserable. So how do you deal with someone who's clearly wrong? First, pause. Ask yourself, what's my goal here? Is it to be helpful, to clarify, or is it to defend your pride? If it's the latter, step back. Second, remember this phrase. I don't need to attend every argument I'm invited to. Let that be your compass. Not every disagreement is worth the energy. Not every criticism deserves a counterattack. Not every misunderstanding needs your defense. Sometimes peace is found in letting them think they've won, because you've already chosen not to fight. But this doesn't mean silence every time. There's a difference between passivity and poise. If the moment calls for a response, respond with curiosity, not aggression. Ask questions, invite thought, not resistance. Try, "That's an interesting take. What makes you feel that way? I see where you're coming from. Mind if I share a different angle?" These responses diffuse, they redirect, they create space for dialogue, not division. And if the conversation still turns sour, step out, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Because the Stoic knows this: silence is a source of great strength. Lao Tzu. And sometimes, walking away from the need to be right is the most powerful thing you can do. Let's make this real. Take a second and think of all the time you've spent arguing with people who never intended to understand you. All the words you've used to prove something they weren't even trying to hear. And now imagine, what if you used that time to journal instead? To breathe, to read, to grow? What if you took all that wasted energy and reinvested it in becoming someone who no longer needs to be right to feel whole? Because that's the truth. You don't need to be right. You need to be at peace. And every time you choose calm over correction, you prove you've already won the most important argument of all, the one with yourself. Since we just went over inviting feedback, good or bad, I would like to ask a favor of you. If you are willing, I would love to hear your thoughts so far. If you are loving the video, let us know in the comments or with a simple like and subscribe. If you have some constructive feedback for how I can make these videos better, please let me know that as well. My goal is to read and respond to all of you. Okay, let's move on. Number 4, filter the noise. So, you are at work and you're feeling good. You've got momentum, clarity, and a bit of peace in your pocket. Then someone says something, a passive-aggressive comment, a jab disguised as a joke, a piece of unsolicited advice that hits you right in the insecurity. They might not even say it loudly. Sometimes it's a tone, a glance, or just poorly timed silence. And now it's all you can think about. Why did they say that? What did they mean by it? Who do they think they are? You rehearse what you should have said. You imagine the perfect comeback. You check your phone, reread the message, analyze the punctuation. Your peace is gone. It wasn't stolen. It was surrendered. And the Stoics knew this pattern all too well. We all love ourselves more than other people, but we care more about their opinions than our own. Marcus Aurelius. Why do we hand over our inner world to people who barely understand their own? Here's a simple truth that's easy to forget. Their words are not reality. They are reflections, projections, echoes of their own fears, disappointments, and unexamined beliefs. When someone lashes out at you, it often has very little to do with you. You just happened to be standing there when they reached for something to throw. Think of it like a mirror. If someone's inner world is angry, bitter, insecure, they'll see those things in you, even when they're not there. You could be kind, clear, balanced, but if they're in pain, they'll read everything you say through a lens of threat. You can't control that, and you don't have to. Here's what you can control: how long you let their words live in your head. You see, a word is like an arrow. It only hits if you stand still. The Stoic moves. He lets it pass through. She sees it, acknowledges it, and steps aside. That doesn't mean it doesn't sting, but it means you don't hold the sting. You don't become it. Let's make it real. Say someone calls you lazy, unmotivated, weak, unoriginal. Now pause. First question, is it true? If it is, then congratulations. You've just been handed a free coaching session. Now you know where to grow. If it's not, then what exactly are you arguing with? Their fiction, their projection. There's no fight worth having in a story that isn't yours. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Apply this to validation. It is not the person who is insulted that suffers, but the person who needs to be understood, and you don't. There's a deeper, kind of power in letting people misunderstand you. You don't flinch, you don't correct, you don't perform clarity for someone who's not listening. You stay calm, not for them, but for you. Let's try a simple mental exercise. The next time someone criticizes you, pause and ask, is this an opinion or is it a mirror? Filter the intent. Are they trying to help or trying to hurt? Let it fall. Imagine the words as leaves. Let them drop. Let them drift. Don't pick them back up. Detachment doesn't mean apathy. It means ownership. You own your voice, your values, your focus, and nothing they say can touch that. If you make your identity out of compliments, you'll crumble with the first insult. If you anchor your peace in being liked, you'll feel seasick the moment someone withdraws approval. But if you know who you are, their words can float by like traffic outside a window, loud maybe, but distant, and not your concern. Let them talk. Let them twist the story. Let them say what they need to say. You don't need to reply, because you've already chosen something they haven't. Stillness. Number 5, guilt-free boundaries. Now here is another way that many of us perform self-sabotage on a daily basis. You're exhausted, but you say yes anyway. You're irritated, but you bite your tongue. You're overwhelmed, but you still show up when they call. And slowly, almost invisibly, your peace becomes a currency you spend to make everyone else comfortable. You're not alone. Most people were taught that being good means being available, that kindness means self-sacrifice, that saying no makes you selfish, that setting a boundary means letting someone down. But here's the truth the Stoics knew. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Epictetus. And nothing steals your freedom faster than saying yes when you mean no. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors. They are deliberate entry points. They say, here is what I will allow, and here is what I won't. And if you never build that doorway, don't be surprised when people walk right through you. Imagine your peace like a well. Every phone call, every favor, every task you absorb without question drains the water. And one day, someone comes to drink from it, and you realize there's nothing left. Not for them, not for you, not even for the things that matter most. This is what happens when you live without boundaries. The Stoics were not pushovers. They were radically clear about what was theirs to carry and what wasn't. They knew they couldn't control other people's opinions or moods or demands, but they could control their availability. Let's break the illusion. Saying yes when you're burnt out doesn't make you noble. Answering every text instantly doesn't make you loyal. Doing everything yourself doesn't make you strong. It makes you scattered. It makes you bitter. It makes you replaceable in your own life. So, what do boundaries actually look like? They look like, I'd love to help, but I'm not available tonight. I can't take that on right now. I need time to think before I respond. This conversation doesn't feel respectful. Let's pause it. Not defensive, not rude, just clear. And here's the thing, you don't need to explain your no. A boundary is not an invitation for debate. It's a statement of truth. Marcus Aurelius didn't write volumes about people-pleasing. He wrote about aligning your actions with your principles, living with virtue, clarity, simplicity, and if helping others comes at the cost of your clarity, you are no longer helping. You're participating in your own erosion. Think of it like a calendar. Every time you agree to something you don't want to do, you're booking time that was meant for rest. You're filling your day with obligations that weren't even yours to begin with. And then you wonder why you're tired, why you're short-tempered, why you feel trapped in a life you agreed to but never designed. The Stoic solution. Live by design, not by default. Your peace is not a community resource. Your energy is not public property, and your availability is not proof of your love. Real connection, deep, meaningful, long-term connection, comes from people who respect your boundaries, not people who manipulate them. Let's go practical. Next time someone asks for your time or energy, pause and ask, do I actually want to do this? Not in theory, in practice. Will saying yes cost me something I need right now? Sleep, focus, sanity? Would I feel resentment later? If the answer is yes, the answer is no. And if you still feel guilt, good. That means you're rewiring old patterns, not to become cold, but to become clear. Because the version of you who says yes to everything is not the most loving version. They're just the most depleted, and the world doesn't need more depleted people. It needs people who know how to protect their fire so they can actually light the way. So start small. Say no to the call when you need rest. Say not now to the text that can wait. Say this isn't working for me to the thing that's been draining you for too long. Because every time you honor your boundary, you honor your peace. And every time you honor your peace, you become a little more free. Number 6, power of silence. Even while trying to maintain your peace, they say something that cuts deep, sharp tone, hidden insult. They want a reaction. Your heart starts to pound, your jaw tightens, you can feel the words rising in your throat, and then you do something most people never consider. You say nothing. Silence. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you have nothing to prove. That is strength. The world teaches us to fire back, clap back, snap. Don't let them get away with it. But the Stoics saw things differently. They didn't fear being misunderstood. They feared becoming reactive, and they understood something modern minds often miss. The best answer to anger is silence. Marcus Aurelius. It's not about swallowing your feelings. It's about choosing when they're worth expressing. Because most provocations aren't requests for truth. They're traps, bait, tests of how easily you can be pulled out of your center. And when you respond with silence, you break the cycle before it begins. Picture this. You're standing in a storm. Someone hurls words like lightning, but you don't raise your sword. You don't shout over the wind. You stand still, because you have already made peace with yourself. That is what silence feels like. Unshakable, not passive, rooted. Let's be honest, sometimes we speak out of fear. Fear of being disrespected, fear of being unseen, fear of being the one who didn't fight back. But here's the irony. It's not silence that weakens you, it's reactivity. When you lash out, you lose control. When you explain yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you, you lose time. When you argue with someone beneath your principles, you lose power. So what do you do instead? You wait, you breathe, you let them reveal themselves, and while they perform their chaos, you remain still, not because you're afraid, but because you're free. Silence isn't inaction, it's precision. It says, I see what you're doing, I see where this leads, and I choose not to go there. Seneca once wrote, where reason fails, silence often prevails. And he was right. Silence allows room for clarity. It creates space where you might have created damage. It transforms impulsive moments into graceful restraint. And in a world that expects you to shout, explain, defend, your stillness becomes a signal. I no longer need your permission to be at peace. So how do you train this? Start with the little things. Someone interrupts you. Pause. Don't compete for space. Someone posts something meant to trigger you. Pause. Don't respond. Someone tries to bait you into an argument. Pause. Let their need to be right echo into the void. Every one of these moments is a representative, a test, an invitation to deepen your self-mastery. This doesn't mean silence is always the answer. There are moments for speech, for truth, for confrontation. But when those moments come, you'll know. Because you'll be choosing your words like a craftsman, not a weapon. Let them think they've won. Let them assume your silence is weakness. You don't owe them clarity. You don't owe them a rise. Let them fill the space with noise. Let them chase the reaction that never comes. Because the moment you stop responding to chaos, you stop living in it. So next time you feel provoked, pause. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Is this response from my values or my ego? Will this conversation grow me or drain me? And if the answers don't serve your higher self, don't speak. Just smile, breathe, and walk away. Because when you master silence, you master presence. And when you master presence, the world starts reacting to you. Quick pause. What's one situation you stayed silent in and later realized it was the strongest move? Drop it in the comments and we will move on. Number 7. Criticism as a mirror. All right, let's look at another situation where our inner peace is tested. Someone points out a flaw in your work. They say your effort wasn't enough, your style isn't right, your voice is too soft, your decisions are off base. Suddenly, your chest tightens, your shoulders lift, and the defense lawyer in your mind races to the podium. You feel it, don't you? That instinct to explain, to correct them, to prove them wrong. But what if you didn't? What if, just for a moment, you didn't rush to defend yourself? The Stoics had a word for this moment: training. Because criticism, real or imagined, is not just a test of your work, it's a test of your identity. Epictetus once said, "If anyone speaks ill of you, do not make excuses, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, or he would not have mentioned only these.'" Listen to that again. If anyone speaks ill of you, do not make excuses, but answer, "He was ignorant of my other faults," or he would not have mentioned only these. He's not saying to shrug off all criticism blindly. He's reminding you, you are not the words spoken about you. You are what you do with them. Here's the modern problem. We mistake opinions for verdicts. We let passing comments become lifelong wounds. We let misunderstood moments shape our entire self-image. Why? Because we tie our worth to being seen as good, as competent, as flawless, and anything that challenges that feels like a threat. But here's what the Stoics knew, and what few people are ever taught. Criticism is not a sentence, it's a mirror. And mirrors don't lie. They reflect. Sometimes you look in the mirror and see something useful. I could be more patient. I could have handled that better. This part of me needs work. That's a gift, because now you can grow. Other times you look in the mirror and realize it's warped. Their words say more about them than they ever did about you. That's a gift too, because now you know which mirrors not to stand in front of again. Here's how the Stoics handled criticism. Pause. They didn't react. Examine. Is there truth in this? Extract. Keep what serves you. Discard what doesn't. Release, let go of the sting. Keep the lesson. Every insult, every review, every whisper behind your back can either make you bitter or better, and you get to choose. Let's break this down with a real-world example. Say you share your idea at work. Someone dismisses it publicly. They call it simplistic or not well thought out. You can shut down, argue, replay it in your mind for 3 days, or you can pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, was there some truth to what they said? Did I rush this? Or was this a reflection of their stress, their ego, their insecurities? Maybe they were right, maybe they weren't. But your peace doesn't have to depend on either answer. Remember, criticism is feedback, not a prophecy. It tells you one perspective, not the truth of your soul. Here's a simple technique. When someone criticizes you, repeat internally, "This is information, not identity." Let it pass through that filter. If it's useful, refine. If it's poison, release. And if it hurts, sit with it, not to suffer, but to build strength where it's stung. Because that's how character is forged, in the quiet act of facing discomfort without collapse. Seneca once said, "He who fears death will never do anything worth living for." Now, apply that to criticism. He who fears criticism will never do anything worth noticing. If your goal is to avoid judgment, you'll live small, you'll stay silent, you'll never grow. But if your goal is to become, to refine, to evolve, you'll welcome the discomfort that comes with it. Criticism isn't the enemy, ego is. And if you can let your ego shrink just long enough to hear what's actually being said, you might find something priceless hiding inside the sting. Because the Stoics didn't chase applause, and they didn't run from critique. They listened, they examined, they grew, not because they were perfect, but because they were committed to becoming better. So next time someone criticizes you, don't flinch. Look at it, lean in, and ask, is there a lesson here, or just a loud noise? One teaches, the other echoes, and your job is to know the difference. Number 8, release the past. Maybe there is still something you can't quite shake. You keep replaying it, what they said, what they did, what you wish you had said back. You tell the story again, in your head, this time with a sharper ending. You win the argument, in your head. You deliver the perfect line, in your head. You leave the imaginary version of that person stunned and speechless. But when it's over, you're still stuck, still tight in the chest, still carrying weight that was never yours to keep. The Stoics had a phrase for this: cling to nothing. Because the tighter you hold on to the past, the more it wraps itself around your present, and eventually, your future. Seneca said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." Nowhere, like being trapped in a moment that ended days, months, even years ago. Let's try a metaphor. Imagine you're holding a burning coal. Someone hurt you, disrespected you, violated your trust, and now you're holding that injury like fire in your palm. But you're waiting for the right time to throw it back, to make it fair, to make it even. But while you wait, guess what? You're the one burning. Anger doesn't hurt them. Bitterness doesn't wound them. Grudges don't keep them accountable. They only keep you stuck. And most of the time, they've already moved on. Forgotten, busy living, while you keep the story alive inside your body like poison on repeat. The Stoics knew the cost of this. They knew that resentment is self-harm disguised as justice. Let that land. You think you're preserving your dignity, but you're actually preserving your pain. Marcus Aurelius wrote, Do not be disturbed by what is outside your control. Let it go, and you will find peace. Simple, but not easy. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. It means choosing your healing over your habit of holding on. So, what are you holding? A grudge against someone who never apologized. A heartbreak you never really grieved. A past version of yourself you can't stop punishing. Here's the hard truth. It's already gone. Only your attachment remains. And that attachment is optional. Imagine carrying a backpack full of bricks. Someone gave it to you years ago, and you've worn it so long you forgot it's not part of you. Now imagine the moment you set it down. That's what letting go feels like. Not victory, not revenge, just relief. Let's talk about how to do it. How do you actually let go? Acknowledge it. Don't fake peace. Name the pain. Be honest. You can't release what you pretend isn't there. Ask what it's costing you. Energy, sleep, creativity, connection. What is this old pain stealing from your life right now? Choose a new relationship to it. Instead of looping the story, reframe it. That happened. It hurt. And now, it's over. Letting go is not passive. It's an act of courage, because some of us don't know who we are without our anger, without our victimhood, without the story of how we were wronged. But the Stoic asks, who could I become if I put this down? This isn't about excusing the person who hurt you. It's about refusing to let them own another moment of your mind. Letting go doesn't mean they were right. It means you're done. So let the insult fall. Let the unfair moment pass. Let the ghost of who you used to be finally rest. That's the Stoic path. Not pretending life is easy, but choosing to be free, even when it's hard. Think about this. What if your peace didn't depend on apologies that never came? What if your healing wasn't waiting on someone else's regret? What if your future wasn't tied to a moment already gone? That's what letting go unlocks. Not forgetting the past, but refusing to be chained to it. You'll know you've let go when the memory still exists, but it no longer burns. You'll know you're free when you stop waiting for justice and start building joy. Because the moment you stop dragging the pain is the moment it stops dragging you. Number 9, gratitude as a weapon against anger. You wake up late, you spill your coffee, traffic is a mess, someone sends a rude email before you've even taken your first breath of calm, and the anger begins, not explosive, not dramatic, but steady. Like water rising slowly in a room you forgot to lock. You feel the tension settle into your shoulders, your breath gets short, and you start to believe the lie. This is just a bad day. But the Stoics wouldn't call it a bad day. They'd call it an untrained perspective. Because anger isn't always a shout. Sometimes it's just a blindness to everything that's still good. Remember this line from Epictetus. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. This is the essence of Stoic gratitude, not fake smiles, not forced optimism, but a disciplined shift of focus from what's broken to what's still whole. Here's a modern truth. You cannot feel anger and gratitude at the same time. The brain doesn't have room for both. You either spiral into what's wrong, or you center yourself in what remains. Picture this. You're stuck in traffic, horn blasts, deadlines, no way out. You grip the wheel tighter, you curse the red lights, you let the chaos outside become chaos inside. But then you look up and notice the sun breaking through the clouds. You feel your breath slow. You remember, I'm alive. I'm safe. I'm here. And in that moment, anger evaporates. Why? Because gratitude stepped in. Marcus Aurelius used to remind himself every morning, when you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love, not to distract himself from suffering, but to stay grounded in the miracle of presence. Gratitude is not weakness. It is armor. It doesn't ignore the problem. It simply says, yes, that happened. But look at all that didn't. Your coffee spilled. You still have a body that can move, a mind that can reflect, a chance to try again tomorrow. That rude message, you still have the power to choose stillness, to not send your energy chasing ghosts. That setback, you're still breathing, still becoming, still in the fight. The Stoics didn't wait for life to be perfect to give thanks. They practiced finding value even in the discomfort. Gratitude wasn't a reaction, it was a discipline. So how do you use it as a weapon? Interrupt the spiral. When frustration rises, ask, what is still good? Use the rule of 3. List 3 things, right now, that you can be grateful for. They don't have to be profound, just true. Anchor your day in it. Start each morning not with your to-do list, but with a to appreciate list. Try it now. The fact that you can hear this voice? A gift. The ability to pause and reflect? A miracle. The courage to keep showing up for your growth, even when it's hard. That's rare. You're already doing more than most. Cicero once wrote, "Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all the others." Why? Because gratitude creates space. And in that space, you find patience, clarity, forgiveness, peace. All the things anger tries to steal. Here's the beauty. You don't need more to feel grateful. You just need to notice more. Gratitude turns what you have into enough. And once you feel that, really feel it, the little things stop setting you off. You stop snapping at baristas. You stop obsessing over texts. You stop letting small events define your emotional state, because you're not chasing perfection. You're standing in presence. So the next time the anger rises, pause. Ask yourself, what is still beautiful here? What haven't I lost? What might I miss if it were suddenly gone? And when you find the answer, breathe into it. Hold it like a candle in the dark, and you'll see, even the worst moments can't survive in the light of deep, grounded gratitude. Number 10. Detach from approval. You post something vulnerable. You speak your truth. You take a risk and step into a room fully, authentically you. And then you wait for the reaction, the like, the nod, the reassurance that it was good, that it was worthy, that you're okay. But sometimes the reaction doesn't come, or worse, someone disapproves. Suddenly, your confidence wavers. You wonder if you said too much, did too little, if maybe you should have just stayed quiet. This is the trap of approval. And the Stoics warned about it often. Specifically, this line from our good friend Epictetus. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Be content to be misunderstood. Be content to be underestimated. Be content to be disliked if it means you stayed true. Here's the truth. Approval is a drug. It gives you a quick high, but it also makes you a slave to the source. Every compliment becomes a leash. Every like becomes a currency. And slowly, you stop acting from principle and start acting from performance. Detach from approval, not because you don't care about people, but because you care more about your alignment. Let's go deeper. Why do we crave approval? Because it feels like safety. If they like us, they won't leave. If they agree with us, we won't be judged. If they praise us, maybe we're finally enough. But the Stoics didn't measure worth that way. They didn't ask, "What do they think of me?" They asked, "Did I act with virtue?" That's the only scoreboard that matters. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Think about that. You live with yourself 24 hours a day. You know your intentions, your efforts, your private struggles, and yet one person's cold glance can shake all of that. Why? Because you gave them that power. Here's what detachment looks like in real time. You speak up even when your voice shakes. You walk away from people who don't see you clearly. You let others disagree without needing to convince them. You post the thing, say the thing, do the thing without checking who claps. That's not rebellion, that's self-respect. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant, it means becoming anchored. It means you stop outsourcing your self-worth. You stop asking people to validate a life they don't have to live. And the best part? The moment you stop chasing approval, you start attracting people who respect your authenticity. Here's a practice. Catch the craving. When you feel yourself editing to please, pause. Ask, "Am I being true?" Reclaim your focus. Shift attention from "will they like it" to "is it aligned with who I want to be?" Do it anyway, even if it's awkward, even if it's unpopular, even if no one claps. Imagine this. You walk into a room, not needing anyone to like you. You share your ideas, not hoping for approval, but because they matter. You live from your values, not their reactions. Now, ask yourself, how free would that feel? Because here's the paradox. When you let go of needing approval, you become magnetic, not because you're louder, but because you're real. You stop trying to be agreeable, and you start being undeniable. So what do you lose when you detach from approval? You lose anxiety. You lose second-guessing. You lose the weight of chasing praise from people who were never going to understand you anyway. And what do you gain? Peace, power, presence, and finally, yourself. Final quote for the road from Marcus Aurelius. To live a good life, we have the potential for it if we can learn to be indifferent to what makes no difference. And what does make no difference? Their applause, their gossip, their fleeting opinions. But against their petty wind, you are a mountain. Before you go, hear me out. You made it to the end, not by accident, but because some part of you, maybe even a quiet, unseen part, knows that something in this life has to change. Not the world, not your past. You, the way you respond, the way you hold peace, the way you reclaim your power without noise or performance. That's the Stoic path. Now it's your move. Don't just absorb this, apply it. And when you feel it, that shift, that stillness, that unexplainable strength, realize that's the Stoic in you, waking up. And if you want to fully awaken your Stoic potential, go watch our 90-minute Stoic masterclass. It's packed with actionable wisdom, timeless lessons, and mental frameworks that will sharpen your mind, fortify your spirit, and reshape the way you live. And if something in this video struck a chord, if you felt it in your chest, if you know this was more than just a video, then drop a comment below with the part that hit home the most, or simply say, "I'm in control." Let that be your declaration, your flag in the ground, your reminder that yes, this world is chaotic, but you don't have to be. You can remain unshakable.